This is probably the last video in our series on the house with the wraparound porch. And I'm going to cut it short because it didn't seem like there was that much interest in it. So let's go ahead and get started by removing some of the stuff that will make my video turn a little faster and avoid annoying color changes. And of course that happens, I think, when I get too much stuff in some of these videos. I mean, sometimes I have all the nails for the hangers and then all of the rebar, you name it, and it changes colors while I'm going from scene to scene. And in some of the examples, I'm going to focus in on one part of the house where we have this roof here built pretty much the same as the one in the front. So I'm not going to go around every single part of the building when I think you can get a pretty good idea what the front porch is going to look like by looking at the back one, or what each side of the house will look like. And again, this wall right here is going to be the same as the one on the other side. The front porch is going to be a little longer than the back, and this side is going to be a little different than the other side. But for the most part, this gable end and this gable end, this gable end, this gable end, this dormer and this dormer are going to be the same, along with the same measurements. Let's go ahead and remove the fascia board and then come in on the front corner of the porch here. And in this model, I spaced all of the rafters 16 inches on center and tried to make it work out for the plywood. So I kind of went 16 inches on center all the way through in both directions if I could. Zoom in on this part of the house where we're going to have a full-length rafter and a partial rafter that's going to nail into the wall framing along with our ledger here. This will not be a ridge since it is going to be nailing into a wall. And we are going to be using 2 boards instead of 1 long board for our ridge here, along with shaped blocks over the exterior wall framing. And this building will have a flat soffit all the way around. And you could always install some backing here. I didn't because I wanted to show you something I've done before, and that would be to build this dormer roof over this roof. I'm going to install my sheathing here and then nail the roof sheathing to the bottom of these boards here. I've done that before and nobody's ever had a problem with it. However, if that's not going to work for you, don't do it, of course. And then this roof here will build over this roof. You'll put the roof sheathing on this first, and then build this section of the roof over it, along with your fill rafters, common rafters here. And again, we have 2 boards creating our roof ridge. And I went ahead and left these blocks a little lower, but you're probably going to need perimeter nailing. These blocks will need to go all the way up to the ridge. However, I have seen them lowered before like this when installing ridge vents, something that will allow the air to circulate out of the attic or into the attic through a ventilated ridge that might be made out of metal. I don't think I've ever seen them made out of plastic. And of course, our rafters will lap here, and since we are working with a 45-degree angle here, the ends of these rafters will be square on each side, which might make it a little easier to cut the roof rafters. And of course, our mid-span blocks that we have here usually go in the middle of the span of the common rafter. And of course, our little wacky roof. When I was designing the project, I really didn't understand what I was going to be getting into here. But you can see here where this is going to need a little creative adjustment for the roof sheathing, along with the fascia board. And of course, this section of the roof here took me a little while to design. And this section of the roof is going to sit on top of the lower section, or the porch roof. And be prepared to spend a little bit of time working on this section of the roof if you build a house like this, to get everything to plane in nice and flat all the way around. And of course, the porch rafters will be connecting to the roof rafters here that will be sitting on top of a wall, a short wall. And I would imagine after you finish building something like this, you could consider yourself to be a roof framer. And the porch is going to be a little bit longer in the back, might require larger rafters, and you might need to install larger hips or double up the hips or add some type of structural supports in the areas where the hips are going to be sitting over some type of load-bearing walls. Let's go ahead and zoom in on the upper connection for the hip. It's going to be sitting on top of the wall framing plates, and the roof rafters will be sitting on top of our stem wall or short wall here. And the porch rafters that are not going to be connecting to the hip will be lapping and connecting to the roof rafters. And in this section here, they will be sitting on top of the wall framing also. Take a look at the ceiling backing there. And the ceiling backing is going to go all the way around the rake wall here. Next up, let's go ahead and take a look at the dormer. We're going to need a doubler or a beam here, along with a doubler on each side of the supporting beam. This beam is going to be supporting a section of the dormer and might require some type of structural engineering. Keep in mind that I'm not a structural engineer, and before building something like this, you should contact somebody to provide you with the correct lumber sizes for your area. Another view of the lower connection there for the rafters. A view of the porch framing here. Ceiling joist here, right here, and then our porch rafters here going up to the ledger. Ledger is going to attach to the wall framing. A view of our double windows there. And I'm sure I drew my ceiling backing in there somewhere. It just disappeared. Let's go ahead and add our fascia board and then zoom in on a couple of sections where the fascia board goes over the roof sheathing. You're going to need to have a gap here to allow for the roof shingles to slide underneath the fascia board. If you don't, the roofer won't be happy. And then a view of the corner here. You've got to make sure that wherever you need the roof shingles to go under, that you have enough space for them. An example of how the porch roof is going to die into the upper roof. And I think this roof here is a 2-in-12. Don't quote me on that. And at the other side, again, we have the gap for the roof shingles. How our wacky section here is going to die in. And let's go ahead and wrap this video up with 2 more pictures, and that is it. A nice upper view of the roof with a longer roof in the back, shorter one in the front. And if you want to save some money, get rid of this thing right here and get rid of the 2 dormers here.